June 2005, a career full of explosive action ended with a deflated whimper. The fight had been viewed as a foregone conclusion in Tyson's favor. The opponent, a hand-picked Irish journeyman with an unremarkable record against lower-tier fighters. The guy had no chance. The only question was in which round Mike would punch the consciousness out of him.
And despite the prevailing opinion that Mike Tyson is shot, unfocused, and undisciplined, this has the elements of a short and painful night for Kevin McBride.
But Tyson was fighting solely to pay off the debt accumulated across more than a decade of poor decisions, debauchery, and self-indulgence. A week before the fight, in an interview for USA Today, he made some comments that would suggest boxing was the last thing in the world he wanted to be involved with. "I'll never be happy. I believe I'll die alone. I would want it that way. I've been a loner all my life, with my secrets and my pain. I'm really lost, but I'm trying to find myself. My whole life has been a waste. I've been a failure. I just want to escape. I'm really embarrassed with myself and my life. I want to get this part of my life over as soon as possible. In this country, nothing good is going to come of me." Obviously, with that type of regret, self-loathing, and utterly jaded attitude towards a fight game, even an athlete as talented as Mike Tyson is going to struggle. And struggle he had. He had lost 2 of his last 3 before the largely unknown Kevin McBride wore him down, made Mike carry his weight, and in the end shoved the disheartened legend out of the sport once and for all.
He wins this round. It would be a 10-7 round.
On the canvas, Tyson looked utterly defeated. He eventually staggered to his corner. Moments later, his coach called it. Mike quit in the stool against a mediocre boxer. And so, totally embarrassed, he threw in a towel on his whole career.
I don't think I have it anymore because I got the ability to stay in shape, but I don't got the fighting guts, I don't think, anymore. I just don't have this in my heart anymore. No, I'm just fighting to take care of my bills, basically.
Does that mean we won't see you fight again?
Yeah, that's most likely. I'm not going to fight again. I'm not going to disrespect the sport anymore by losing to this caliber of fighters.
Tyson's career was about as turbulent as it gets, and looking back over the 2 decades, it was the lows that remain most memorable. He was a man who had completely lost his way amidst the fame, money, and various betrayals. Crashed cars, psychotic outbursts, wild spending, and a tumultuous and exploitative relationship with Don King. But most notably, there were multiple accusations of assaults, including a conviction and a 3-year stint in prison. And he bit a chunk out of Holyfield's ear. He had a public image of a psychopath and a clinical diagnosis of low-level depression. For enduring what I'd have to imagine amounts to one of the more traumatic careers we've seen, he left the sport as possibly the worst case of boxing's most familiar cautionary tale. A fighter with nothing to show for all that pain, broke before even leaving the ring. In Mike's case, it wasn't just that he didn't leave himself a pension. Now, a man that had earned upwards of $300 million retired almost $40 million in debt. Tyson was booed out of the arena that night, and in his own words, left the sport of boxing as a sad, pathetic case.
I'm just tired of fighting. Boxing has no place in my heart anymore.
Earlier this year, and 15 years after that day, a 53-year-old Mike Tyson released some surprisingly impressive training footage. The impact this clip made was shocking. It was enough to convince some like De La Hoya and Hopkins that he was about to reclaim the belt. They didn't need to see one more second.
In this era, Mike got a chance on being the undisputed heavyweight champion in the world.
Evander Holyfield, Bob Sapp, Kevin McBride, and many others were all considered or discussed in the media before it was finally announced that Mike would be returning to the ring against fellow legend of the sport, Roy Jones Jr.
We're not born to be humble. We're born to be humble. Everybody knows it.
Boxing's a brutal sport. His legs are huge. His thighs are huge. His arms are huge. His neck is huge. It's very risky, yes, but God is in control of all.
Now, this fight, on paper, is just tremendous. if that paper has been sitting in the attic for 20 years. In 2020, the fight is an oddity and a spectacle that can be viewed in various ways and begs numerous questions. Eddie Hearn, who was apparently approached about being involved in some capacity, raised the obvious ethical question of matching up two guys with a combined age of 105.
Is it a bit irresponsible to let a 53-year-old legend get back in the ring? Could he actually go in at 53 and do some damage in the division? Maybe, maybe not. But should we be encouraging that from someone that is an all-time great, really?
I think that's a reasonable concern, but there is going to be an athletic commission involved. And I've also heard the smoking counter-argument. People smoke, we all know it's terrible for your health and awful for society. Life expectancy for smokers is at least 10 years shorter than non-smokers. Tobacco kills, and nobody's complaining about its legality. Most people agree that within reason, individuals should be free to choose what risks they take. So at least these guys are getting something out of it in terms of money and meaning in their lives. All you get out of smoking are smelly clothes, shit skin, and fingers that look like they've been up your ass all day. So while it would be terrible if something happened, I'm on board with that rationale. They know the risks. Both guys appear to be aware that it's an exhibition in name only.
What does that mean, an exhibition?
Exhibition means two people are fighting. It's not called a fight.
But it's real.
Pretty much, yeah. We're throwing punches at each other. You know? My definition of fun is broken eye socket, broken jaw, broken rib.
Now, I want to box and have a good time and give the people a good show as well, but Mike ain't ordinary. You know, it's like he's not that person that can go out and do that. All he knows is take your head off. I mean, he gonna switch that switch at some point, and you're gonna have to deal with Mike Tyson, and I already know this. So I'll get myself prepared to deal with Mike Tyson for 8 rounds if I have to.
And both guys have stated that they're accepting of the most dire consequences.
I think Mike can say the same thing I can say. We are willing to risk our health at a time like this.
When you sign that contract, there's an unwritten clause in there. You know that unwritten clause, Matt? At any moment during training or fighting, you can die. That's the unwritten clause in boxing contract.
So if both guys pass their medicals, I'm actually excited about Mike's return.
Hey, I'm Mike Tyson, and me and my associates, we're founding a new league called Legends Only, and you're living your glory years for a second time.
But Tyson's hoping that this becomes a regular thing, a new attraction in the world of sports entertainment. He's heavily promoting his new Legends League, offering older athletes a chance to come back and showcase their skills.
Just because we're 54, that don't mean we have to start a new career and our life is totally over. Not when you feel as beautiful as I do, and I'm sure other people feel the same way.
Now, this to me does sound like a recipe for disaster. Like Evander is the other guy who is about to come out of retirement, and he'll be 58 next month. So we're potentially talking about guys in the vicinity of 60 years old. At that point, I think they should rename it Mike Tyson's Russian Roulette League. Forget about an ambulance. They're going to need a hearse in the arena. Post-fight press conference / funeral. I mean, Jesus Christ, we're talking about one of the hardest hitters of all time.
Spinks and Tyson, it's on. The world is waiting for this fight. So you go to each other's dressing room to check the wraps and the gloves and so forth. I walk down, I always try to get an edge where I can. I'm in the dressing room with Tyson, and I'm looking to rattle this guy. I walk in, and he's punching, standing there. He and Rooney's putting something on. He's punching holes in the wall. I'm like to myself, oh no. This guy's getting ready to fight my guy, my little guy. And he's punching holes in the wall before he goes out to fight? Oh, no.
But as much as I'd love to see Mike Tyson punch an old man into a coffin on pay-per-view, I don't see this Legends League taking off. I just don't think there's a market for it outside Tyson. This guy's reputation and highlight reel is so impressive that 15 years after he retired and over 20 years after his prime, he can still create a buzz posting training clips that resemble his signature style and conjure memories of that young destroyer. The prospect of seeing that guy possibly appear, even for a round, is the whole selling point of this fight. But there's only one Mike Tyson. If he can beat Roy in some type of impressive fashion, and athletic commissions will continue to sanction it, he might have a short-lived legend streak. But outside him, I don't see anyone else decades out of their prime being able to draw a crowd. So this Legends League in theory seems concerning, but I don't think it's going anywhere. On Rogan's recent podcast, at one point he asked Tyson if he knew about Genghis Khan. Tyson proceeded to speak at length about Genghis and many other conquerors throughout history. This was a brilliant part of the podcast. I could listen to Mike talk about that shit all day long.
Why would one person think that he could fucking own the whole world? One person. That's not a fucking person. That's just something when your egos just got so out of whack. How do you think like that? And you're a nice person.
Eventually, Joe asked the question, if Tyson had been born in another time, does he think he'd have been a conqueror himself?
That maybe if you were born in the times of Alexander the Great, you would also be a conqueror?
No. I am a conqueror now because I've conquered myself and my demons. Most of them couldn't conquer their demons. That's why they ask for forgiveness from God, all of them.
What a fucking answer. You know, all those descriptors I used at the start of this video were all accurate at the time. Substance abuser, prone to psychotic outbursts, biter of ears, abuser of women, etc., etc. And in his own words, a sad, pathetic case. But over the last 15 years, Tyson has put in the immense work to transform himself and his public image. And that could not have been easy. There was relapses, fuck-ups, and tragedies. But before that final fight, Tyson said he was really lost, but he was trying to find himself. And over the last 15 years, he did appear to find himself. As Max Kellerman often says,
because there was a time in your life where I said, this dude's not going to be around long. And your second act in American life has been remarkable.
It's hard to think of a guy who's having a better second act in life than Mike Tyson. So, there's many ways to look at this fight. You can view it purely as a spectacle, just a fun fight and a last chance to see two legends duke it out. You can view it as a moral dilemma from a promoter's perspective. Maybe it's a fight that above all will demonstrate the wonders of modern medicine. You know, one of the things Cordero has said was that Tyson has the speed and power of a 21-year-old. And I would say if you tested his hormone levels, they'd reveal that that's actually not a coincidence. I mean, I don't know, but let's just say I hope they're both taking equal amounts of performance-enhancing drugs. Let's make it a fair fight. And then there's the morbid curiosity. Let's see what happens when one of the hardest punchers of all time hits a 51-year-old man with an already diminished ability to absorb punishment.
Many of you may remember I'm the guy that used to knock motherfuckers out in less than 30 seconds.
Oh my God. But I think another way you can look at it is as an opportunity for Tyson to revisit the ring as a much different person. A chance to showcase that 15 years of growth within the context of the sport of boxing. He's made a big deal about the fact that he's fighting for a good cause. And it is significant that he's now fighting in part for charity. The last time we saw him, he had been fighting to untangle himself from his own mistakes and clear the debt of a horrifically dysfunctional early adulthood.
No, I'm just fighting to take care of my bills, basically.
It's not about money because the money's going to be in charity and people going to, and it's just about doing something good. And that, from that perspective, that could be, I used to like feeling like I'm doing something good for somebody more than myself.
Because people were talking about you literally fighting for the title again.
Hey, I'm not interested in that. I'm just interested in fighting for the title of giving.
And
it feels soul cleaning for some reason. Me doing it for myself, it just doesn't do it for me no more.
Right. That makes sense.
It doesn't do it.
So I think that's the best way we can frame this fight, as an opportunity for a man who has been to war with himself and eventually conquered his demons to make a more respectable exit from the sport that had previously functioned as a platform for those demons. Whatever else it might be, hopefully this whole venture of Mike's plays out as a more dignified farewell to the ring from the boxing legend.
Heavyweight champion of the world. I'm the best ever. I'm the most brutal and vicious and most ruthless champion there's ever been. There's no one can stop me. Lynx is a conqueror. No, I'm Alexander. He's no Alexander. I'm the best ever. There's never been anybody as ruthless. I'm Sonny Liston. I'm Jack Dempsey. There's no one like me. I'm from Nairclaw. There's no one that can match me.
we have a perspective from the Iron Man.